Good evening. The Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, July 9th, 2019 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Heitman.
Here.
Trustee Dempsey.
Present.
Clerk Borba here. Trustee Dorshevitz. Here. Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Treasurer Clinton.
Here.
Supervisor Heisey.
Here.
All present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next is item B, a Pledge of Allegiance. Wayne County Commissioner Melissa Daub is going to lead us tonight.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item, and Jerry, the mic's kind of hot right now, just saying. Next is item D, approval of the consent. I'm sorry, item C, approval of the agenda. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Treasurer.
I'd like to amend if we could move to the agenda.
Sorry.
I'd like to move that we remove new business item F5, retiree healthcare reform plan, from the agenda.
Okay, so we are moving for approval of the agenda without item F5.
Correct.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is item D, approval of the consent agenda. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, I need a motion to approve.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Heitman.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. All those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item E, public comments and questions. This will not be your only opportunity during the evening to comment on agenda items. We will also have an opportunity at the end of the meeting, and we also encourage questions on individual agenda items as long as they are germane to that particular topic. So at this point, is there anyone who would like to speak? I know we do have a couple special presentations tonight, but any comments or questions for the board at this time? Yes, sir. We do need your name for the record. Oh, okay.
So my question is, my name is Jim Har. My question is, to be able to speak today, it has to be on the agenda?
No. This portion of the agenda, and at the end of the meeting, it's wide open.
Okay. And if I could, I'd like to
Go ahead.
speak. Thank you.
I will hold you to 3 minutes, though, okay?
Okay, very good. So my name is Jim Har. I reside at 7016 Buckley Court in Canton, Michigan. Last spoke to this board at the study session on June 4th regarding retiree health care reform. I told you then, and I'm telling you today, that I'm saddened and confused that this board is considering to increase the premiums for retiree health care. I lived in the township for 25 years and worked for the citizens of the community for 30 years, year and a half for the DPW, 28 and a half years for the fire department. We all hope to be retired at some point, and near the end of your career, you can see a light at the end of the tunnel, and that includes health care benefits. It also means a fixed income. When you or your loved one is injured or ill, you just hope and pray that your policy, your coverage is what you need when you need it, that you won't be saddled with a huge medical bill that could devastate a retiree. It seems as if you're changing the rules of the game in the middle of the game. We all work very hard for this community and for the benefits we earned. And I'm asking this board to please find savings another way so that retirees have a chance at a healthy life. I'm disappointed with the narrow-sighted ideas of the board regarding retiree health care. I, as a retiree who worked hard I, as a retiree, will work hard to take whatever action, legal, legislative, political, is necessary to rectify this egregious idea. Whatever happened to the idea of people are priority? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else at this time? Yes.
My name is Susan King, 952 Stratford Drive, South Lyon, Michigan, and my spouse is Marty King, a firefighter. And I am just asking that the contract would be honored, that the word that was given to us, past a handshake, would be taken into account. We would end up paying close to $500 a month, and we simply don't have that money. We are hoping to take not even that amount and buy a used vehicle so that I can drive my 2 grandkids around. That's the financial state that we're in right now. We are fixed income, and there isn't extra money every month. So I'm just asking that morally, that you would take into consideration that a contract was written with these guys. Lots of nights when you guys were in bed sleeping, they were out cold, icy roads, pulling people out of cars with the jaws. In weather like this, they were going into buildings with their gear on and 50-pound air packs. Just everything was done for the community. They gave their all, and they gave above and beyond their all. So I'm just asking that you would have mercy on us as retirees, and that you would honor the contract and the word that was given to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep.
Members of the board, my name is Paul Rainey. I reside at 7540 South Kearney Road, Whitmore Lake, Michigan. I faithfully served for 29 years on the Plymouth Township Fire Department. All of our retirees served faithfully and put their lives on the line every day they served in a very hard and very dangerous career. The negotiated medical benefits that have been in place when we retired have always been honored throughout that employee's retirement. This is a precedent that has been set from the very beginning, as one needs to know what to expect if they are able to retire. Now you want to change that. We are asking that this precedent continue to be honored, especially because the citizens of Plymouth Township have shown their support to the retirees in this last millage. We also negotiated in good faith over many years, giving up wage increases and other benefits to maintain these health care benefits for retirees. Requiring retirees to now start paying 20% of their health care premiums will cause financial hardship for many and is wrong. We are asking you to honor your promise to us for all of our years of faithful service and vote no on this retiree health care reform plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we do have tonight State Representative Matt Kolazar and Wayne County Commissioner Melissa Daub. If the two of you would just like to come up real quick and just give us a little update on what's going on in your respective worlds, that would be awesome. In the meantime, we will have a trivia contest tonight. There are 5 current or former state representatives in the room right now.
I was just going to say, we make up over 10% of the people in this room right now.
So can you name them for us, Representative Kolazar?
You did that math in your head.
I absolutely did. Well, we've got Jerry Borba, Kurt Heisey, Mark Corvo, myself, and John Stewart.
There you go. Very good.
So basically right now in Lansing, I don't have all that much of an update because we haven't had session in about 3 weeks. Currently, the budget is being negotiated through a conference committee. I can tell you locally here in district, I am doing legislative doors, which basically means I'm taking Lansing to constituents to make sure they are as informed as possible. Going door to door in Plymouth Township right now, as a matter of fact, and just finding out what their biggest concerns are, as well as making sure that they know what's going on in Lansing.
Okay. When do we give them questions? After they're both done? Yeah, sure. Let's have Melissa come up. Right?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Daub, Wayne County Commissioner for Plymouth and Canton. I just wanted to share the biggest news of the day. All 4 of the Hines Drive bridges are now open, so that's really good. They do have temporary supports underneath, so when you drive by or go, I guess, under the bridge, you're going to see it looks really ugly, but that's not going to be there forever, so it's just something temporary to get us by. Another thing I'd like to let everyone know is my monthly coffee hour for July is on the 27th of this month, and it is in Plymouth at the PARC in the city of Plymouth. and all residents of Plymouth and Canton are welcome to attend. It's at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yes. The new auto insurance reform, can you simply tell us when it's going to take effect and what you anticipate for the residents of Plymouth?
Summer of 2020 is when you should see a reduction in your auto insurance rates. As far as what it means for the residents of Plymouth, there should be, it depends on what coverage you take. If you only want to have a $50,000 coverage for your PIP, then you could see up to a 40% reduction on that portion of your coverage. If you still want to have the full, you could see a 10% reduction in your coverage. That still remains to be seen, but those are the estimates that we've been given.
So catastrophic claims are staying the same or going down?
Yeah, catastrophic claims are still intact. As far as people that are paying into it, that could lessen depending on who takes what.
Okay, any other questions for our officials here? Very good. Thank you very much. I do want to make a general comment that the agenda that we approved tonight does not include the retiree health care issue. It does not include the retiree health care issue. I do not know when it's going to come back. I don't know if it's going to come back, but it will not be taken up tonight. So,
May I ask why it was removed?
It was removed by the board. We voted on it. So, but my point is, I just don't want to have people waiting here all night for something that's not going to happen. Okay. Okay, we have another
Bob,
very...
just to answer the question, why I recommended to take it off, I'm not ready to vote on it. I just don't feel I have enough information to make it a good decision at this point.
Okay, now, under public comment, we also have another very special presentation tonight. We have representatives here from Henry Ford Hospital who have a very significant presentation that they would like to make. Some of it has already been out there in the public domain today, thanks to press releases and Facebook and good things like that. But tonight we have Mr. Audia and Mr. Korovu here from Henry Ford Hospital. And we also have some slides, I believe, that Mr. Dorshevitz will put up on the screen for us as well.
Yeah, I'd also probably at this point I should ask the board that I be recused from anything related to this issue.
Yeah, I mean, we're not voting on anything tonight, as you know, but we'll have to take it as it comes. You know, I'm not sure if we're going to have any votes on this issue in the future because this was a focus of a PUD, and it's just too early right now to figure out if any adjustments are going to be necessary, and those are really up to the attorneys to figure out on our behalf. So, Mark, take it away.
Thank you, Supervisor. And it is early, and to call this a presentation may be a bit of an overstatement, but it was important to the Henry Ford Health System to come out here as early as possible to say that we're looking forward to coming to the area. We do have some early photos. There was a press release sent out today that contains some of the details. More than willing to talk to those as much as we can at this point, but really more than anything just wanted to come to the trustees in this meeting and indicate that, you know, the Henry Ford Health System is a world-class organization. We've been around for over 100 years. You know, as we developed as a health system, we went into the ambulatory marketplace. As you know, many of you may know, we started on the Boulevard in downtown Detroit, and we have always moved to where our patients are, and this is just an extension of that. When you look at the fabric of Henry Ford Health System and you look at the fabric of this community, I think it's a perfect fit. I'm looking forward to coming to town as we move forward, and there's plans to develop further and further. If we do end up in front of this body or another body that needs decisions to be made, we're looking forward to doing that, but we'll be a community member, looking forward to bringing our community benefit and the wellness that we bring to our patients to our backyard. So.
And we want to clarify that this is the old Kmart site.
It is. It is kitty corner from here. It'll be a 120,000-foot facility, ambulatory, ER. In the press release, you know, real briefly. You know,
Mark, get closer to the microphone so the people at home can hear it.
Sure. Specifically, you know, just to reference the press release, which covers most of what I can say today anyway, is specialty care, primary care, an ER, and an ambulatory surgery center. There's a list in paragraph 7 of all the things that we'll be doing, but in a nutshell, cradle to grave, we're a fully integrated system along with the Health Alliance plan. So we will be able to deliver the services for just about anything that the people in this area and the constituents in this area will need in terms of healthcare.
And Bob, if you could continue just scrolling through those photos while we're talking, that'd be great. And Mark, I know it's very, very early and this just broke today, but is there any thought of outbuildings along Ann Arbor Road at this time, or you can't say?
I'll defer to Darren on that.
Hi, Darren Audia, Corporate Real Estate Services, Henry Ford Health System. So the site currently, as it sits right now, can fit 130,000 square feet. There is a potential for outlots on the site. We're programmed right now at 120. It doesn't mean that after we get done doing our internal programming of it, that we won't go up to 130 or 125 or stay at 120. We are talking with Optimize, which is an affiliate of Henry Ford, about coming onto the site with us as well. So we'll see what the site actually generates when it's all said and done. It's very early. We still have some things we need to work out. But from a Henry Ford standpoint, we're really excited about being here. We've been here for a while now, just not in the capacity that we're bringing now. So we're excited for the residents of Plymouth.
One of the other questions that we are getting is what happens to your facility on Beck Road?
The facilities on Beck Road, even our Canton facility, are going to remain, and we're going to use them in collaboration with this site. We're trying to bring more services to the township and the surrounding communities. When you look at high-end specialty care, we don't want you to have to travel all over to get that high-end specialty care. We want you to go to 1 or 2 sites instead of having going to 4 or 5 different sites to get that specialty care. So that's why we're building this large facility here.
And then how many people working at the site? About 120?
We anticipate about 120 employees in the building. This is a multi-million-dollar investment in the township, and we're hoping that what you see out there will be something like that in the next couple of years. So
that's great. Any other questions for the gentleman here?
Yes, I have 2. Do you anticipate building a parking structure on this site?
No.
Tell me why you're locating in Plymouth, since we have so many medical facilities within 15 minutes. Tell me about the demographic, or what motivated you?
So believe it or not, a decision like this is actually years in the making. It doesn't just happen overnight. We've identified this area in western Wayne County as an area where our patients are at, and that we may not be servicing them correctly. So 2 years in the making, we've identified this site, and finally we had the wherewithal with it from a corporation standpoint to pull the trigger on a site. We evaluated multiple sites in the area. We decided this was the best site from accessibility and for where our patient population lives, and this is why the site was chosen.
And I'll add one thing to that. In terms of healthcare as an industry, hospital systems more traditionally in the years past was focused on the acute setting. Not so much what happened to our patients before they showed up in our hospitals and not as much after. But as our value-based care and our contracting has required us, quite frankly, and it helps with savings, take care of the entire continuum from helping people stay healthy so they don't have to come to our facilities, believe it or not, and then making sure that they don't come back. In order to provide those services and innovate and have the technologies, the old facilities like we have down on Henry Ford, we have to refit, and that's an expensive way to provide care. So this outpatient ambulatory is much better for the patient, much better health outcomes, and it's cheaper.
Okay.
Could I just ask 1 or 2 questions? And first say, I'm excited to see that this site would be redeveloped. It's obviously a key part of our corridor, Ann Arbor corridor, so this sounds exciting. Just for clarification, is this new construction or is it retrofitting the existing building?
No, this will be completely new construction. The former Kmart site will be demolished, and a new building will be going up.
So does this also involve acquisition of the property, or is it some kind of lease arrangement? Or?
We're still in negotiations with the developer on exactly how that's going to occur.
Okay. Wow, this is great. You know, you've picked a great night to be here because we have a very strong economic development theme tonight. We're going to do our annual economic development presentation. We have the DDA master plan, and this will be really the cornerstone of the Downtown Development Authority for the future. So your timing is absolutely perfect. And as I put on Facebook today, this may be the all-star night, but we're having our home run derby in Plymouth Township tonight. So you guys are just, this is very welcome news. Not only are you a terrific corporate citizen, but it's so important for communities across the country right now to deal with these big box stores that are clearly, unfortunately, no longer wanted by the industry. Retail is just dying all over the country because of the internet, and it's so difficult to repurpose these buildings now. To have you come along with this project is really a lifeline to this corridor. So we appreciate it, and welcome.
Thank you for having us, Supervisor, and we look forward to working with everybody. Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, I will open the floor still to public questions or comments. Again, if you're here tonight on the healthcare retiree issue, we are not voting on that tonight, just in case you're here on that issue. So we are going to move on now, hearing no further comments, and we're going to move on to item F1. This is the DDA master plan with Laura Haq. And before Laura comes up, I'll just, well, come on up. But while she's coming up, this is somewhat unusual for this board. It's been a long time since we've had to review and approve a DDA master plan. But this is one of the new requirements of the state of Michigan, which took effect late 2017 or early 2018, that does now require, this is not it. That does require downtown development authorities, tax increment finance authorities, and similar tax capture entities to now file with the state a plan, just so that the state knows where the money is being spent and what the long-range goals and objectives are. So this is not like this is somewhat of a new thing for us. I think the last master plan, Laura, was done, I think, in 2002, maybe?
2002, correct.
2002. So it's been quite a while. But we've worked on this now for the better part of a year, and this item was presented to the DDA at their June meeting, and it was reviewed and approved unanimously. We've also had input from Trustee Heitman, who works on economic development issues with us, along with Dennis Cebulski from the Planning Commission, and a couple of the DDA members who just volunteered to review the plan while it was being put together. So with that in mind, we have Laura to walk us through and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And get right up to the mic there, too.
Maybe I'll just hold it. Okay.
Good.
The DDA was formed in 2002 to encourage and participate where feasible and appropriate in the development of new private uses that clearly demonstrate the creation of new jobs, the attraction of new businesses, and the generation of additional tax revenues. So the focus of this master plan was really to create an amendment to the existing plan that lists current projects, that deals with ADA improvements, and that will really be a document for the Planning Commission as well to use as new projects are proposed along the corridor and as sites are redeveloped. It's important to note that the Planning Commission did review this at their May meeting and had some recommendations which were incorporated and then presented to the DDA board in June. And at that June meeting, there was also a public hearing, and the taxing jurisdictions were notified. There's no change to the boundaries of the DDA plan. There's no expansion or reduction in the boundary. But this is to make it current with the new legislation and to provide an updated list so that the DDA and Planning Commission and Board of Trustees can work together in the coming years on priority projects and hopefully review it annually and identify what tasks they'd like to accomplish. Very similar to the process that the board starts every January with the goal setting and review of those items. So there is a motion in here to adopt the resolution that would authorize final adoption of the DDA master plan.
Okay, any questions? Sorry. Hold on.
Are you going to tell us a little bit about
any-
it, or you want me to ask a specific question?
Any questions you have, I'm happy to answer.
There was a lot of discussion in there about crosswalks,
Correct.
and I want to discourage having many crosswalks. They are, in a lot of communities, creating dangerous situations because of the state law that says you can step out into traffic, and it's slowing traffic, plus making drivers jumpy because they're expecting someone to jump out into the crosswalk and not look. It's going on in many, Traverse City is a great example. So I urge you some caution on crosswalks. Put fewer. I see in here that you want to put many. I don't think that's good judgment.
Well, I think an important part of this plan is the identification of some of the existing crosswalks that don't meet the ADA accessibility, like for some instances.
Yeah, that's reinforcing what we have, but it seemed,
Correct.
maybe I'm wrong. It made it look like you were going to add many more.
Well, it depends on how the corridor is redeveloped in the future. But if there are redevelopment of sites that would have pedestrians crossing the road anyway because they're so few and far between, then it would necessitate a crosswalk. That would be better
without
to
a
not.
light? Crosswalk without a light?
I think there's a couple examples in the plan that show similar to what they've done in Ann Arbor at U of M's
With the
campus.
bollard or whatever that gives you the flashing, says that somebody may jump out in front of you.
Yes,
like
that
what they use on the
pedestrians-
west coast of Canada. Still, be careful. Next item is getting bike access over the railroad track. I didn't quite understand whether we were going to do that or not. In other words, having some type of pavement that lets you to get over there, because the road is so dangerous. If you want to ride a bike, riding it, you can't ride under that underpass without taking your life into your hands. In fact, I remember as a youth, at least one person who was killed there, and parents strongly discouraged riding bikes on that road, and it hasn't changed since.
The problem, we've recognized that the overpass is not only a pedestrian and bike hazard, but it's also an aesthetic hazard to the corridor. It's an old, ugly, dilapidated overpass. We're in the process of reaching out to CSX to try to work with them to refurbish the overpass, at least repaint it and make it look a little bit more appealing. We would really like to take a hard look at the plant life and the landscaping around all four corners of the area. We had some success last year. You may recall we worked with MDOT and the county to get some of the bigger scrub trees removed that were presenting a line of sight issue. But there's still a lot more work to be done. The township actually in 2014, was it earlier than that, 2008?
2008.
2008 commissioned us a very comprehensive study. I've got it up in my office. It's a very thick study that was, I believe, was done by
Hubble-Roth and Clark.
Hubble-Roth and Clark that laid out some very comprehensive plans for beautification of the overpass, landscaping, pedestrian access. So there's definitely a plan that we could employ. It's just a matter of money, and it's a matter of getting the necessary permissions from the county, from MDOT, and from the rail company. The problem nowadays in the post-9/11 world is railroad tracks are now considered critical infrastructure, and it is illegal to step on railroad tracks. It is illegal to cross them in any way other than with your car, for example. But if you go on railroad tracks for a walk or for a photo op or something like that, you're breaking federal law because you are trespassing onto critical transportation infrastructure. So as a result, we cannot allow people to traverse those tracks by going uphill and riding a bike or walking over them. So we've got to work with what we've got, and right now what we've got, unfortunately, is trying to get people under that overpass.
That's scary.
It is, and using the existing infrastructure that we have. Whether there's ways of widening that in a safe way or maybe pinching that in a safe way for traffic, but none of these options are very attractive at this point. But we are looking at it. We're going to start talking with CSX very soon, and we've briefed the DDA on that issue as well.
Yes, and I mean, the truth of the matter is that people do cross under that viaduct, and they do ride their bike underneath that. So if there's a way for the township to make that safer for those who are doing that, and safer for vehicles as well, then that would be an improvement.
And we also have serious drainage issues there as well. We all know that in the spring, when the ice is melting, there's some very hazardous situations down there. We've had flooding down there in the past. So it's that area presents a lot of challenges for engineers and pedestrians.
Now, the county has a big equity in the water situation, Melissa. So maybe that's something that we could work on together. Back to the CSX Railroad. If they give us permission and we have the money, we could do some of the work ourselves, correct? For example, painting.
Yeah, the DDA has the money to do painting and to do landscaping. We would either have to contract with their people, or we would have to get a license or a permit either from CSX or from MDOT to do some of the necessary work. Because don't forget, I mean, Ann Arbor Road is still a state road. It's still under MDOT's jurisdiction as it's the old M14. So we have to work with the state as well.
Some of the mature firefighters remember that there's been several deaths there. People on bicycles, pedestrians, we even had some people jump off the viaduct. And some of those guys remember that. So it is kind of a hazard.
Well, before we leave this, when I look at the set of recommendations, Laura, on page 33, the Strategic Action Plan,
Yes.
what I see for this is CSX Railroad Viaduct improvements, including restoration, rebuilding, and repainting. That, to me, sounds like simply trying to look at the railroad bridge itself. It doesn't deal with pedestrian or bike access through that. And I'm not even sure it really, Mr. Supervisor, talks about beautification of that area, because the bowling alley on the southwest side and then the facilities on the northwest side aren't exactly
They could be
as
enhanced.
beauteous as they could be. So is that part of this plan, or should that be added?
That is part of the plan, and specifically the pedestrian access under the viaduct is part of the sidewalk gap improvements, and then there's a map as well in there that calls out those missing segments along the corridor. Because CSX is so heavily regulated, there's actually two processes that we have to follow in order to seek approval. One is just for removing the rust, repainting, and then the second one would be for actual access either under or above, but not in this case, but under the viaduct.
So under the, I guess it's on page 17, you're saying under these sidewalk, this is listed?
It's on the sidewalk gap map, yes.
Could you point me to which item that is? Sorry.
What page of the
59.
59 of 128.
59? Would you make up your mind?
Oh, Laura,
17. Page 25, I believe.
25. That would be a different.
Are you guys
page
just
on
throwing out
PDF.
random
We're
numbers?
just testing.
Because there's two, there's the
That'd be
whole
60.
packet.
Right here.
It's map 4.
Oh, it's a map. Okay. I'm not
Yeah,
good
it's
with
map
pictures.
4, and it shows the existing gap. gaps, I should say, along the corridor. So there's several others, including over the 275 overpass, that should be addressed by the DDA as well.
So by approving this plan, we're calling for this gap to be filled over the next
X years.
30 years,
Correct.
hopefully sooner.
So where's the gap? What represents the gap?
I think there's multiple.
Am I on the right screen?
The dashed lines, I don't have a pointer with me, but, yep, those dashed lines.
Okay.
At
right
this
here.
scale, they're kind of blurring with the parcel lines and the DDA boundary, but if it's a blow-up map.
So that's the railroad.
Yeah.
That's the gap. And then we have another gap over here at 275.
Mm-hmm.
Where the 275 has the sidewalks over the bridge, but it's the approach?
There's parts of the approach, and then also the sidewalk that currently exists, that step up along the bridge, is not, it's not ADA, and it's also not recommended for bikes because it doesn't have the proper railing. You could fall. There's no catch zone. So like the ones that they redid in Livonia, 96, those have the proper height for the side railings.
So MDOT could really step up and make Plymouth Township more bicyclist-friendly by working on that 275 interchange, couldn't they?
They could, and that's part of, that's the process that Livonia followed. They adopted the Bike Walk Livonia plan in 2015, and then they had some of those bridges updated, and hopefully when 275, when those are eventually reconstructed in Livonia, it calls for that as well.
Yeah. But the good news is if you slip and fall here, there's going to be a hospital right here. So.
Well, and also, there's a fire station right here with,
There's a fire station.
we can practically see it.
But no ambulance.
And there's EMS transport too, but that's another story.
Laura, getting back to CSX,
Yeah.
we talked about this before, the charrette that was done in the mid-90s.
Okay.
Was that information incorporated in the 2008? If you don't know, I'd like you to find out.
Okay.
And then if you have to, if you can't find the archives from this charrette, which was very well done, brought a lot of new ideas. It lasted for a whole day with many students from architectural colleges in the area. Please call Jim Anowitz and ask him where those documents are. They're large rolled up pieces of paper.
Oh,
So
yes, I have seen those.
There'll be a lot of good ideas in there. Maybe they were incorporated in 2008, but if they're not, you've got some more to look at.
Okay, I will check that out. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Laura?
Just to respond on the sidewalk, or on the crossing issue, there are other ways of fostering safe pedestrian crossing of a road like Ann Arbor Road. For example.
Where was that at? Sorry, Jack. Where was that at again that showed the different sidewalk options? Here they are, right here. Okay, or crosswalks, I'm not. Sorry, go ahead.
For example, an advanced walk light so that cars have to stop even if they're proceeding in the same direction. They're not allowed to make a right turn on red. So it's a red light for the vehicle. It's a white crossing light for pedestrian. So I don't know who controls all that at, say, Main Street and Ann Arbor Road, but that's an example, I think, of an improvement that would help pedestrian safety, pedestrian access, encourage more walking, more fitness, et cetera.
Agree. Even the signal timing for the walk signs and do not walk, I think there may have been a couple that were identified that were not long enough for average ADA accessibility.
Who controls those?
A combination of either MDOT or the county or both, but my hunch would be the county that would be maintaining the signalization of those lights.
Is that the Is that the road commission or is that the county commission?
Well, there's no road commission, so the county commission is the road commission, and the road commission is the Department of Public Services, so.
Ah, great. So we could look to our new commissioner to help us on those safety features. Because honestly, when you're going west on Ann Arbor Road and you get to Maine and you are making a right-hand turn, there's a green arrow that will allow you to turn, as I recall, during a normal red light or something. Okay, I think that's
So there's a
right.
risk of being,
It's not placed properly. It's so close
Yeah.
to the right turn. It should be on the opposite side. And there's places that it's placed properly on the opposite side, so the people come to a stop at the crosswalk can actually see the green light. So really, it should be strung the other way, as opposed to being strung this way. It should be strung
Be nice
the
to
opposite
have
way.
the county public services folks come out and take a look at all of these someday with the
String it the
DDA.
other way.
Well, and those are in the city too, so, if it's on Main Street.
since we're on lights, what do you call those lights that are suspended with large metal arms? Lights, and name the street? What do you call them?
The mast arms.
Green, yellow,
Is that in
red.
the plan?
No.
Not at all. At one time it was.
Those are, yeah.
They're super
We
expensive.
we looked at Sheldon Road in Ann Arbor, but it was like $250,000 per.
Yeah, if we were to do those kind of arm lights at the major intersections, I think we are starting at $500,000, and it would probably be close to $1 million when you're all done.
Yeah, and those are old estimates
Yeah.
as well, so.
And you know, frankly, right now, our biggest priority is still trying to get those darn lights at McClumpha and Ann Arbor Road, and I don't want to be trying to sweet talk the state into helping us with something until that's resolved. Colazar's still here, yeah, okay. We get to pick on you for a while. Okay, any other comments or questions by the board? Anybody in the public would like to comment on this plan? Yeah. You got to come forward.
Wait till you get a quick.
So you get recorded.
Put the microphone close to your mouth.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Byron Bardis. I live at 11625 Butternut. I've been a Plymouth Township resident since 1995. And I just had a few general planning questions. This plan that you're talking about the railroad crossing over Ann Arbor Road there by the trailer park. There's storage.
Yeah, it's the railroad overpass.
Okay.
Right.
And I think I noticed that's for sale or something, some of that land.
Yeah, there is property for sale in the northwest quadrant of Ann Arbor Road and the railroad overpass. There is property for sale. It's where the trailers or other RVs and stuff are stored right now.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I don't know, who owns those RVs? Are they all being notified that the land might be sold, or?
Well, that's a private matter
but-
between the RV owners and the private property owner, but that property has not been sold. It is for sale. We have met with the realtor because we've been trying to move that along one way or the other, and make it, whatever goes in there would be in harmony with the overall plan for the DDA. But right now, there is no, it is for sale. It has not been sold. If it is sold at some point, then the private owner is going to have to work it out with his various RV tenants that are on site.
Okay, and then I had another question.
Yeah.
I've heard some mention of a company, perhaps Webasto, wanting to move in somewhere around Haggerty and Schoolcraft, I think. And I live, I don't know if you're familiar with the George Robinson neighborhood. I don't know who that's named after, but it's...
George Robinson.
Yeah, Edward G. Robinson, maybe. Al Capone, right? Anyway, it's north of Ann Arbor Trail, east of Haggerty, and I own my home there. And I noticed on the Detroit Land Bank, there's a pin there for Gilbert, and there's a Gilbert Street over there. But it looks like it's just one section of somebody's backyard, and I looked it up on BSA Online, and it looks as if someone lives there, and their taxes are all paid and whatnot. So I was just wondering, I just want to make sure you know,
Yeah.
if somebody's trying to buy my whole neighborhood and I'm,
No,
you know, an owner of one lot, I want to be
Well,
informed
first of all,
of it, of
no,
course.
those are great questions. It's very intriguing. There's a couple things that work. First of all, the Wabasto
Yeah.
property is well to the north of you. It's at Haggerty and Schoolcraft, and
Okay.
it's under construction right now.
Southeast corner.
Haggerty and Schoolcraft again. Oh, yeah.
Plymouth and Haggerty. Or farther north.
Just keep going.
5 Mile and Haggerty and Schoolcraft.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's way far away from you. But if there's the Detroit Land Bank does not own any property in Plymouth Township.
Okay.
Now, there may be a Gilbert Street in the city of Detroit that they own property on, but they have no jurisdiction whatsoever into Plymouth Township, the Detroit Land Bank.
Maybe it's an error, but I don't remember how I found the website, but I think if you Google, you know, Detroit Land Bank, there's a website, and there's a pin up there, you know, off of Gilbert. So it might just be, maybe it's a computer error.
It
Somebody
could be
keyed in
just
something
some
wrong.
Google misfit thing.
Okay.
But Dan, yeah.
And one other
Dan
error.
Gilbert is not buying your neighborhood now.
Okay, other error I noticed, that's my house right here. Like if you extend about 5 feet, Butternut and Ferguson right there. And I noticed on the map that you were looking at earlier, on that one it shows one lot for 11625, my house, and 11637, which is actually owned by a couple, Sharon Usatawa Butler and Jeff Butler. But I was just wondering, how would I go about letting somebody know so that can be corrected? Because there are actually 3 lots. It's, I think, 144A or 144B or 145A, B, and C, I think. And I own 11625. Then there's another house, 11637, then 11647. And then
Okay,
this
but
other house, 40320 Ferguson here.
Yeah.
So.
None of that property is in the DDA, though. So I don't know what map you were looking at, again, unless, does Butternut doesn't even go
No.
far south, so.
Well, there's another section south of Ann Arbor Trail. And when I moved into mine in 1995, it was all dirt roads and then Ohm Construction, paved and asphalt. That was back. I still have the paperwork on it. Your name's on there, Chuck. You were one of the trustees back then.
You
and
paid the bill.
I paid my share.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the total cost was about $750,000. It worked out to about $4,700 per, you know, house. And I know I paid mine, but I assume the rest of the
Are
neighborhood.
you thinking of
paid
a
off.
special assessment district, perhaps, that was in your area?
No, it's, I mean, I have all the paperwork if you want me to email it to you.
Because at one
but,
point, those were all dirt roads, and there was probably an SAD to asphalt.
Right. Yeah, and that's all. I mean, that was done back in 2002, and I paid off, you know, my portion of it.
But none of this impacts the DDA plan
Okay,
at
great.
all.
Then if I could, one more quick question. I know there was talk before about changing Plymouth Township regulations about privacy fences, and currently privacy fences are not quite allowed. A lot of my neighborhood currently has chain link fences, and some of my neighbors, the ones on the corner here and then the ones to the north at 11637, they've installed some, well, it varies, 4 to 6 foot privacy fences. Are those allowed now?
You can go up to 6 feet.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's a new ordinance. We implemented that about 4 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's all I had right now. Thanks
All
a lot.
right. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's going to be a new pavilion built in your Miller Park by your house.
Oh, is there? Okay, great.
Your neighbor donated the money.
Oh, who's that?
Kay Arnold. Kay Arnold.
Tim Doyle.
Yeah.
So, okay, any other questions from anybody on the DDA master plan? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Heitman.
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-7-9-65, authorizing adoption of the Downtown Development Authority, DDA, master plan as recommended by the Downtown Development Authority at their public meeting on June 10th, 2019.
Motion's made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey?
Yes.
Trustee Heitman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, very good. Next is item F2. This is the Police Department Intergovernmental Agreement with Oakland County. Lieutenant Kudra, could you come forward and explain this item for us?
Good evening. The purpose of this item on the agenda is to authorize the clerk, the supervisor, and myself to sign a intergovernmental agreement between Oakland County and Plymouth Township, and that is basically an agreement between the two governmental bodies to allow Oakland County to perform work on our patrol cars. The work that we have them do currently all relates to computer hardware and software. All of our computer programs that we use, for law enforcement purposes, those are all through Clemis, which is run out of Oakland County. If I need to have software updated, or what led to all of this was me putting new printers in the cars that we were approved to purchase earlier this year. We bring it up there and they do that work for us because really my vehicle upfitter that I use to build the cars, he doesn't have the capability to update software and that kind of thing. When I was doing the printer install, the guy who runs the vehicle services department up there said, hey, while I have you on the phone, our board of commissioners wants everybody that we do work for to have a signed intergovernmental agreement. So that is why we are here.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
So I wanted to give you a comment. How'd you get so clever to have such a low $66 labor rate per hour? That's a bargain.
I asked for the impossibly charming and devilishly handsome discount. They gave it to me. So. You're welcome.
I guess I'm screwed.
Send me next time.
I will.
Any other questions from the board? Comments? Anything from the public? Okay, I'm looking for a motion on this item.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move to adopt resolution number 2019-07-09-66, authorizing the Township Supervisor, Township Clerk, and Lieutenant Kudra to sign the agreement to central support services between Oakland County and the Charter Township of Plymouth.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Vorva, yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next is item F3. This is the stormwater agreement for Star Trucking. Dave Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Star Trucking is located at the northwest corner of Joy and Haggerty. It was a site that they came in and refurbished. They eliminated a drive approach and repaved the site. In the process of repaving, they had to come in and do some storm sewer work, put in a storm water detention system. So tonight we're here for approval of the stormwater maintenance agreement. We've done this with several projects. Wayne County requires the township to accept jurisdiction over the stormwater management system. This stormwater agreement then passes the responsibility of the maintenance onto the property owners. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions or comments?
I have one. How do you educate them, since this is a trucking operation that will have diesel fluids spilling and things like that, how are you educating them to avoid or clean up their spills? Because it tends to be expensive.
Right.
Otherwise, it's easy just to wash it down the storm drain.
I don't know how much we can really enforce on that unless we're made aware of it. They do have maintenance requirements as part of this storm drain agreement where they have to come in and clean the system, do certain maintenance every month, every year, every so often on it. I believe the system that they have in place also has what they call a swirl concentrator that has a way of filtering some of that out and putting it in a holding tank that can be pumped out then if they do have a spill of that nature.
So there's no one giving them a little training or education on what they need to do? Or
No, it's just in their documentation that they have to take care of this.
Okay.
Okay, anything else from the public? Okay, I'll lean a motion on this item.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Heitman.
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-07-09-67, authorizing the Township Supervisor to sign the Wayne County Permit M49962 and approve storm drain agreement with Star Plymouth Property LLC, and authorize the Township Supervisor and Clerk to execute same.
Okay, motion's made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yep.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yep.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is item F4. This is the 2019 Economic Development Update with Trustee Heitman and Planner Laura Haw. This has become an annual event for us, and again, very timely tonight, given the economic development news that we received from Henry Ford Hospital. I don't believe that project is in this plan. Laura has hard copies that she's passing out. You also received electronic copies this afternoon, and then you can access those again in the future as well. So tonight, I don't know, Gary, if you're going to join her up there at the podium, or you're going to talk from your seat, okay?
Laura, did you put this slide deck together?
Yes.
Well done. This is a good piece of work.
So our objective is to give a brief overview of what is economic development, how does it pertain to the township, what new projects we have underway, and talk about some things on the horizon. So Laura, you're going to get started, or Gary? I'm going to hand it over to you guys.
Thank you, Supervisor Heisey. I think the first section that we're going to cover is Economic Development 101, and that'll be discussed by Trustee Heitman.
I added this section in a lot due to some Facebook comments that people clearly do not understand what economic development is, and we're going to basically share what it is and what it is not, and what makes up a good economic development team. In a nutshell, they're policies that improve the economic well-being and quality of life for Plymouth Township. We create and retain jobs, facilitate growth, and provide a stable tax base. So what is really the economic development piece? Why is it important? You can see the economic development on the left. Okay, that's easy. New business retention, recruiting, attraction, community development on the right, housing, public safety, recreation. These are things that Plymouth Township citizens have said are very important. These are things they've voted for because they're very important. The intersection of those are the kinds of things: infrastructure, entrepreneur, leadership, brownfield, workforce development, and certainly marketing and tourism. A little bit about where we were and where we're at right now. We've been very proactive. Believe me, guys, I spend a hell of a lot of time doing economic development for free. When I took over, we were struggling. We were in that bottom 35%, or basically 75% of the triangle. We've been moving up, recognizing problems. Some of them we talked about tonight with the railroad, and certainly the great news with the Kmart facility, and being proactive. We'll get into some of the retention visits and those kinds of things, which are very, very important and have never been done here in a long time. Certainly we have incentives and financing tools. A couple of nasty comments out there about you're taking tax money away from us. Okay, here you go. Yes, Plymouth Township, Wayne County, and the state of Michigan have many financing options. Okay, tax abatements and brownfields are just a couple of them, but we look at every single instance in a separate overview. Okay, cost, benefits, rewards, jobs, you heard it today. Henry Ford coming in, knocking down that awful ugly looking Kmart building, that's a hell of a benefit right off the bat. And the goals of the community, and that's what we do up here, is put the goals together with your help. Okay, why can't anybody do this? Guess what, guys? You need ethics when you're doing this. Confidentiality, transparency, cooperation, and non-discriminatory behavior. What do those mean? Confidentiality, most important thing. Many deals have been sabotaged by somebody talking. Believe me, this Henry Ford deal, we went through hell on this Henry Ford deal, back and forth with a lot of other companies being involved. Transparency, okay, if somebody says, well, what's happening with this site? If I know and can't tell you, guess what? Don't bother me. I can't tell you. I'll tell you when it's possible. And we can share what we can. Conflicts of interest, this is huge. This is, you know, we don't sign up. You heard Trustee Dorshevitz already say, hey, I'm not voting on anything for Henry Ford because there'd be a conflict of interest. So Bob right away stepped up. Other trustees in the past have done the same because these are the kinds of things that are very, very important. The biggest piece is ethical issues. Okay, we have non-competes. One of the things we've done very successfully since I've been working on economic development is, guess what, guys? If we don't have a space in Plymouth Township for you, I'll help find a place in Canton, or I'll help find a place in Northville Township or Livonia. And we all do the same thing. We help each other. Laura, new investment.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Heitman. So we gave this presentation back in July of 2018, 1 year ago. So the data that we're showing in this presentation is the last 6 months of 2018 and then everything through June of this year. This slide in front of you shows new non-residential investment, approximately 20 new commercial and research development facilities. This includes the newly created parcels along the MITC corridor on 5 Mile that were formerly the Tohoku prison site, and at least $50 million in new construction investment. Speaking of the MITC corridor, this is the Michigan International Technology Corridor that Plymouth and Northville Townships have been working towards for years now at this point. There's also a number of very critical stakeholders that have continually met over the years. Gary Roberts, I believe, gave a presentation to the board last year that was very informative, and this really just continues to gain momentum. Earlier this year, the MITC Authority was created, which consists of a 5-member board with Supervisor Heisey and Trustee Heitman as representatives. This board is the formal authority to collaborate with developers and other stakeholders, and is the public-facing body of the corridor. The MITC Authority also seeks grant opportunities and funding sources. This would include the MEDC Site Readiness Grant that was applied for in June of this year. We were supposed to find out grant awards July 1st. MEDC has extended that, but we did apply for a $100,000 grant between the two townships. So we're hopeful, and as soon as we hear word, we will let you know. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, Supervisor Heisey?
No, just that the MITC Authority is now fully operational in our cooperation with Northville Township and also the State of Michigan Land Bank, which is the third leg of the stool. And also, this board knows that yesterday I was able to sign the necessary documents to effectuate the transfer of ownership of the site, pending a legal quiet title matter that is pending right now in court that we are prevailing in. That is to again acknowledge the fact that we are the rightful owner of the property. Once that lawsuit is settled, then we will then the deal will be completely finalized. But what has occurred yesterday was a memorandum of understanding to effectuate the terms of the purchase agreement, a license agreement to allow Hillside to begin work on the site, subject to permits from the county and state as appropriate, and then also an escrow agreement to put aside the more than $1 million that has been pledged by Wayne County, who used to own the property. It's a long story, but they have agreed to set aside more than $1 million in escrow that will reimburse the developer, Hillside, for installation of a water main basically from the Audience site northward towards 5 Mile.
Thank you. So This is the site the Supervisor Heisey was just referring to. It's called the Ridge 5 Corporate Park. It's at the southwest corner of Ridge and 5 Mile. It's also along the MITC corridor. This is a potential render of what the site could look like in the future. There are 9 parcels that were created as part of the site plan, and the infrastructure was approved, but no buildings are approved yet. So as these sites are sought by developers, then the site plan will go before the Planning Commission.
But the overall site plan, though, has been approved by the Planning Commission.
Correct. That includes the infrastructure and
Right.
all the setbacks.
And this is a wonderful rendering, but it is a little bit, it's quite creative, but just for orientation purposes, this would be Ridge Road, this would be Ridge, this would be 5 Mile, this is the railroad tracks that intersect, and that's that so-called triangle property right now. So again, this is a concept. The other thing I want to point out, we've made quite a legitimate issue about public access to the creek. So the creek would basically be running right through here, and we're working with the developers on a boardwalk or a pathway of some sort, not a boardwalk. Boardwalks are very expensive, but a walking path that would go along the creek. It would turn here, and you can see it will come all the way out to Ridge Road. And this is a little parking area where people can park, and then they can walk up and around, and they can go all the way around up here to 5 Mile. Ideally, in the future, we'd like to be able to jump the road and be able to connect to existing trails that are in Northville Township.
So this walking path will cross the railroad tracks?
No, it would terminate just west of the railroad, where the railroad tracks are now.
And has Hillside agreed to do this yet?
Oh, yeah. And in fact, this is one of their drawings that shows sort of a boardwalk, but it would be more of a walking path.
But the township ultimately would be responsible for maintaining it.
It could be a joint situation. The township and the developer would jointly manage the site. Those are issues that we're going to have to address in the future. This will also be a brownfield site as part of the overall MITC. So brownfield money would also be available for that amenity.
So why is Hillside moving before they have complete title? They have a buyer, or what's going on?
Well, they have tenants that are already lined up and have been waiting.
This title issue was kind of a late breaking.
It was, and it's really the result of the title company and their underwriters. I had always maintained that we had ownership of the site because we had a court order from Judge Colombo going back to 2016, and I used to think that was good enough, but nowadays it's not good enough, so they wanted us to file a formal quiet title action. We have prevailed throughout that process, and we'll be able to close that lawsuit out in early August. Okay.
So this is another render of the site, artistic at this point since these buildings are just conceptual, but the park is to be a mix of office, research, testing, and light industrial facilities.
So light assembly will be allowed?
Correct. It is zoned.
Like Webasto, a facility like Webasto is allowed in that Ridge 5 corporate park?
Correct. And then as part of their amenity, not only for the public, but also for the tenants of these facilities, they would like to do the public pathway, an artistic render. There are a number of wetlands on the site, which their team has already gone out there and walked the site a couple times and sort of mapped out the most beautiful, enjoyable path through the site to highlight those areas.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused here. The Johnson Creek Linear Park, as I recall, was designated largely because it was a fishing site, a trout stream.
Yep.
So if the parking lot is going to be on Ridge at the southeast corner of the property, that's a long way for someone to walk with their fishing tackle.
It is, yeah.
So what
Where do
what
they
was the
park
planning?
today if they do it? They park
Well, I don't know.
on 5 Mile?
Could you go back to the other
That's a
map?
problem
I guess
today. They don't, or they park in Northville at that particular, where they have their
So-
park in
Well,
Northville.
so what's the planning commission's thinking about that, that whole idea?
Yeah, I mean, it's a healthy walk. I forget the distance. I think the entire, I want to say 0.7 miles was the entire.
It's about a mile.
It's about a mile end to
Yeah.
end.
Over a mile end to end, but about a mile from the parking lot to the creek area
Yeah,
for fishing.
it's a healthy
In your
walk.
waders.
Well, you carry your waders.
It's good exercise.
And
Get a wagon.
Yeah.
But the challenge was, it was far too risky and
in reality, are
to
are
put
people going to be
parking up here
fishing?
for that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear both of you talk at the same time.
No, we talked about that. I mean, in reality, are people going to park there and carry their fishing gear and fish? I don't know, maybe. I mean, I'm not a fisherman, I don't know.
And Trustee Dershowitz, I think the Planning Commission's direction at that meeting was that the final pathway had not been finalized yet, and that they would like it vetted a little bit more, and the recommendation was to discuss with the Board of Trustees the maintenance for that, because you would be the ultimate authority on such public.
Also, sorry to interrupt. There's also access from a number of these sites to that walking trail, right? How did that work again?
There are 2 other access points that they've
2 other.
proposed. So let's say there might be, it's not shown in this, but there might be a sidewalk that runs down to this, and then another one on the other side.
Consider porous type sidewalks to reduce the hard area.
I mean,
Nobody wants to try that, but somebody needs to pull the trigger on an experiment.
whatever the material is, I mean, you got to consider maintenance in the long run. If it's gravel, it's going to be much easier to maintain than if it's a surface that, we're going to have to pay attention to.
All that, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if, so it's a mile walk. I think people that go fishing in the woods walk that far. They don't drive right up to the
To get a
stream,
good
do they?
trout stream, yeah, they'll do that.
I think the important part for this is that there is a public benefit, and that the developer wants to work towards this in conjunction with the township. And that's something that still needs to be vetted out a little bit more with the board at a later date. They haven't finalized their site plan approval yet.
Yeah, because we don't want boardwalks that go nowhere or can't be walked on like are on.
Yeah,
I think that is Ridge Road, isn't it, or is it Napier?
that's on Napier.
Napier.
Okay.
Laura, I'm sorry, but
That's okay, go.
we got plenty of time. What is the plan for the topsoil? Are they going to scrape it off and then redistribute it or sell it? The topsoil in there is fantastic.
Dave, Richmond, do you remember from engineering and their grading plan?
They haven't really specified it, I think, in
Well,
most
encourage
cases.
them to scrape it off and it's not wasted by excavating it.
Most developers will take and stockpile it and either sell it or reuse it in their green space areas. They're not gonna, they can't pave over it, they can't use it as any kind of structural material, so they're gonna use it as best they possibly can, whether it's selling it or reusing it in their green space areas.
Okay.
All right. So moving east on the corridor, there's the Innotech Business Park, which is part of the former prison complex. This will provide another 10 lots. And as part of this plan, there's approximately 22 acres in the southeast corner there that are being preserved. And then there's also another 20-some acres of wetlands that are being intact as part of this development. And that development is by Redico. And then nearby, just south in the Metro West Business Park, is the last greenfield site. This was approved last year, Polytech, but it's currently under construction, as you can see. And they deal with optical measurements and test velocity.
Where is it?
It's just on Halyard, southeast of Adient. There's a bit of a cul-de-sac there, or an eyebrow, as they call them, in the road. And then this is one that's received a lot of attention lately at the southeast corner of Schoolcraft and Haggerty Roads. 440 plus new jobs, 47 million in capital investment. I think as sort of a public improvement, there will be sidewalks on both Haggerty and Schoolcraft as part of this, and there's also a donation of 150 trees to the township to be planted in public areas. This is the inside of their main entrance, just an artistic render.
Webasto actually went over and above the number of trees we asked as part of our formula to place. They went over and above, and they actually said, we will help plant the trees and keep the township works out of it.
And trees on site, though, is about 360, you told me?
Yep. They're doing both trees on-site replanting and off-site. And they've preserved about 2 acres of the existing vegetation, although Trustee Kermey has pointed out that majority of those trees were black locust and invasive. And just recently, 2 weeks ago, on June 28th, was the groundbreaking for Webasto. This was met with a lot of support from MEDC and the state of Michigan, and just a lot of state agencies as an improvement. And then smaller scale, there's the first Merchants Bank construction just right out here on Ann Arbor Road. This was formerly known as Monroe Bank and Trust. There's also Hillside Residence at the former Courthouse Grill site. This is still in the planning approval process. It has yet to come back to the board for final approval. But it's planned for approximately 80 luxury apartments, underground parking, and some improvements to the road and right-of-way there. And then I think I saved the best for last, and Buddy's Pizza is opening next week on
You have
July
samples here?
16th.
No? Well, they offered to experiment on me today. Yes. Training on me, practice on me.
And then I also want to cover significant reinvestment, because it's not just about the new construction in the community, but about businesses who have been here for a long time and are expanding and making that reinvestment, or new businesses that come to town that are doing reoccupancy. So in terms of those commercial and industrial upgrades, in the past year we saw approximately 46 and $27 million of reinvestment. So that's definitely noteworthy. Just some key projects include right out here in the DDA corridor, Laird's Glass. This was the previous facade. You can tell they've made some significant improvements in landscaping.
Could I stop you?
Yeah.
Is there some informal recognition we can give to businesses that do this?
Well, as a matter of fact, Laird's has been a personal issue for me for quite a while, because I have to we drive by it every day. We put a lot of creative encouragement onto this company to improve their site, especially since their neighbors are also in very good condition. I do not believe, Laura, that they are fully completed yet. I still think they have to do some roofing items, right?
Correct. They have a little bit more painting to do, and then they have to do some rooftop screening of their equipment.
I was just going to plan on giving them a letter on letterhead just saying thanks for your investment and your beautification of the site. You know, I mean, if we could get more fancy and do a tribute or something, but
Well,
I'll leave that up to you guys.
Some recognition seems to me to be very appropriate, because it can then be posted in a lobby, and people see how they've made a significant improvement to the beautification of the township. So
Good idea.
this is outstanding.
They'd like a press release that would help their business.
Press release would be great too. Low cost.
Did you say
Good
that
idea.
their motivation to do this was because of Plymouth Township complaining about it?
Yeah.
Or they just, really?
Yeah, because there was damage to the building that had been there for a decade. And the place was very unkempt. I mean, but I think a lot of it was the economic conditions. They just didn't have the money to beautify the facility, and now that things are better, they see that that was an area that was hit by a vehicle and the facade peeled off. And I think with a better economy, they were able to improve the site and be a nice addition to the DDA.
It is. Then further down on Ann Arbor Road, the Esso Square Plaza is almost at full capacity, which hasn't happened in a long time, and that includes Shimmy Shack and Jersey Mike's and
What is Shimmy Shack?
it's a vegan restaurant.
And we have
It's
vegan,
next to CVS, right in the corner.
we have vegan police officers.
This was their
Shakes
first.
are very good.
It's right in the corner where the consignment store used to be, between CVS and the laundromat and the Fantastic Sam's. It's in that little corner there.
The economy has fixed that mall from having CVS and Little Caesars and nobody else.
Yeah.
Tells you what the economy, it floats all boats up.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then right next door, also on Ann Arbor Road, is Haq Premier Dentistry. So this was a reoccupancy of the vacant bank building. This looks really blue in this render that they provided. It's more of a gray slate color that they're going to be painting that portion of the facade. But they are adding all the stonework, and they've taken off the Mayan pyramid top. And they're also doing some landscaping.
So this is the old Comerica Bank building.
Yes, and I want to point out that this is a relocation in part of a Plymouth Township resident's business, Dr. Ralph Bozell, who was in Canton. He's now going to be in Plymouth Township. So multiple good things here.
Yes, and he hopes there's room on the property to expand, and if things go well, then he would like to in the near future. Another example of significant reinvestment is the iconic Burroughs building. This is a historic Albert Kahn structure. There's 850,000 square feet of usable space, and the administration of that building has really gotten creative in order to repurpose it and bring it to life. That includes Rivian.
Well, let's just back up to Burroughs real quick, because we do have a business going in there right now, which is what?
The trucking.
It's a automotive, I thought.
Electric vehicles, electric trucks?
No, we know about that. That's Rivian. But there's tenants now that are going into the Burroughs building that are bringing in like 250 people, 250 employees. So that's in that this is obviously a more modern photo. So they're taking over a big part of that
Tenants
existing.
start moving in the third floor next week.
This is the trucking company? It's a logistics company?
And a couple other ones. And then they're looking for the fourth floor to be still some kind of lots, some kind of residences. They're still toying with that. But
Did they retain the hardwood floors that are on there?
Yeah. They've spent a ton of money refurbishing that place, and they'll certainly offer tours to board members if you're interested, because it's a really fascinating tour.
take the tour. It's worth it. Yeah.
Just the United Trucking, the logistic company that's looking for the office space, they're going to occupy 45,000 square feet, $2 million to revamp that office space, and they're going to bring about 300 new jobs. And then just going back to Rivian real quick, electric SUVs, they've got 400 so employees right now, and they're looking to expand to 500, 600 in the near future. So, things are working well in that building, and we hope to see that continue. Another local company, Signet, they have been in the township for a long time. Now they're expanding on General Drive. They source raw materials locally. They're a great example of someone who really wants to partner and collaborate with the community, and are planning great things for their new site on General Drive, including building facade improvements and landscaping to their parking
So
lot.
they're power washing returnable containers? Is that their business?
Yes.
Correct, sustainably.
And they are also the leader, this company has been the leader in the petition drive for the reconstruction of General Drive. And it is so critical that project go forward, because Signet is basing a lot of their expansion. They want to expand, they want to acquire additional properties along General Drive, and that the rehabilitation of that road is critical to their future plans. So they've been a terrific corporate partner, not only just to work with, but also on the General Drive reconstruction project.
They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars just to put up a flagpole with the lights to run the American flag up every day. And there came down the street, and the guy said, well, the lights are in our eyes. He called the construction company out and had them move all the lights so they wouldn't be in anybody's eyes on General Drive. That's the kind of corporate citizen that we really want here.
Absolutely. Another major project of reinvestment is the Phoenix Mill, the 1920s former Henry Ford facility and Albert Kahn building. Right now it's in a dilapidated state. It's being acquired, and there's plans to restore it. They have the original Kahn blueprints.
So they were found from Albert Kahn?
Yes, yes.
It's amazing.
Yep, by Critical Mass and Rick Cox. They've done a great job in preparing for the restoration of that building, and they will be presenting their site plan to the township later this fall. That will go before the Planning Commission.
We will also be receiving a brownfield redevelopment plan for that site, probably at our meeting in August. Probably August 27th, we'll see their brownfield redevelopment plan. It's already been approved by the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for the township. It's just a brownfield plan, and obviously they'll use the tax capture to help rehabilitate the site and address there's some underground contamination issues there that go back, 75 years or more. So
What is the contamination?
It's oil-based products and tar,
petroleum
and whatnot.
stuff.
Yeah, road construction stuff that's been in there for a long time.
And then there's also lead and asbestos in the building.
In the building.
So that will also be remediated as part of this project. And this is their concept plan right now. It calls for outdoor dining, an indoor restaurant, a sculpture garden, and then improved public access to Heinz. Major cleanup of the area, removal of invasive species, that type of thing.
And that's some of the best fishing in the entire area right there.
Is the chase going to be running through the building, or are they in other words, reopen the chase? It's where the water used to come in to run the turbine.
Oh, I'm not sure. That's a great question for Rick Cox and his team. I know that they want to...
It'd be great if they could somehow incorporate that and have water running through the building again.
Like the Northville one, yeah.
Well, the water wheel works, yeah, on the Northville building, so...
Yep.
I think it would be remiss to, not acknowledge that all of this new and reinvestment wouldn't be possible without partnerships and the collaboration that goes along with that, not just with these entities on the screen, but this really goes to the schools and to other surrounding municipalities and state agencies, and also I would say the internal collaboration amongst the township. I've only been here for a couple of years, but it's really changed for the positive. And, without the boards working together and all the department heads and under your leadership, we wouldn't be seeing, I don't think, such positive results. So that's really important.
Also, the great economy we have that's originating from Washington.
And then I also want to talk a little bit about quality of life measures, because as Trustee Heitman alluded to earlier, economic development is not just about the tax base, right? There's a reason that companies choose to locate here. There's a reason that companies stay here for so long and want to expand, because we do have a high quality of living in this community, and that really, there's a wide spectrum of factors that go into that. One of the first ones is residential. So in the past year, there's been about 23 new residential dwellings that are actually constructed. And from permits that are pulled, we know that there's at least $41 million that's been invested not only in that new construction, but by existing homeowners who are choosing to improve their homes, which is really critical and a sign of a positive quality of life.
So you're saying the permit values are actually, if you add them up, are 41 million for 23 dwellings and all of the water heaters and things like that that are being put in? Are you sure that math is right? 41 million.
It's 41 million, and that includes the infrastructure and stuff for the residential projects that have gone in. So like,
Not for those 23, it's for everything. It's 41 million.
Just, this is in this calendar year only?
so it's this, all of 2019 through June, the end of June, and then the last 6 months of 2018.
Yeah, so it's the entire year.
So 1 year, 41 million in residential.
Improvements.
Based on the construction value of permits.
Just seems really high.
New construction and
Water
significant
heaters and things, right?
reconstruction, and decks and kitchens and
Additions and roofs and all that, yes. Garages. So that's a positive sign. And then we also have some new construction projects that are being wrapped up, which is really positive. There's some that have been out there for a long time. And hopefully in the next year, we'll start to see some of sites like Andover Forest get cleaned up and not just sit there as unforested area.
So Andover Forest is the property across from Picnic Basket,
Correct.
Right, and we are working very diligently with the developers. It's been a much more, I guess, diligent is the right word, where we have really been hand in hand with them trying to get this project back on track. When the economy went down, that whole site was not handled the right way. But in the last 2 years, we've worked with them, and we're hopefully going to start seeing some shovels in the ground there again real soon.
Yeah.
Laura, these are speculative buildings or they have buyers?
They're speculative at this point.
Both. I think they have buyers on some.
Well, how many are they building?
Lease sites.
For Andover Forest, they're not under construction yet. We're still waiting on the recorded document, so.
So how many total are in this development, Andover Forest?
I believe there's 14 plus one existing house that remains closer to Ann Arbor Road.
This is just west of Ridge on the north side?
Yeah, across from Picnic.
No.
Okay.
I think it's interesting to point out that the average square foot of homes in 2018 was 28,000 square feet.
2,800.
2,800. I always do that. 2,800 square feet. Those would be massive, right? And then so far in the last 6 months, those homes that have been constructed, it's 3,100 square feet. So we're still looking at large homes being constructed in the township. And I think some of the more recent developments that we've seen that are supposed to be more empty nester are still quite large, which is both good and bad if there's a demand for that, but it's also not that much of a diversity in terms of housing. These are some other stats that we have for just 2019. So 320,000 is the average sale price of a home, 162 square feet, 35 days on the market, and interest rate at 4%.
That 162 includes the land, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
So the average sale price is $320,000.
Yes.
So 162, that would be 2,000 square feet would be the average home.
Time to sell, Jack.
That's not your place, though. You're way higher than that, pal.
It just
seems low.
No, it strikes me that we don't want to have a community that's nothing but big box, $500,000 or above houses. So this is kind of encouraging in that it suggests that there are lower price houses available.
There are.
This number is actually down $3,000 from last year.
But $162 a foot, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all existing construction resales, or is this both new and resale?
Is this from the ad that the guy puts out?
Yeah.
The calculation? The guy sends it out once a month, some real estate guru?
Where we talk to him.
No, let's let Laura answer the questions. We're all
the
dancing
source of
around.
the data.
We're all jumping around here, so.
Well, Trustee Heitman, not to put you on the line, but
yeah,
I think got this data from Peter or,
With a T.
yes,
Yeah, funny sounding last name.
yes. But
I think these are very consistent with the numbers that I've heard from a variety of realtors, including the fellow downtown. He advertises all over the place.
Yeah,
so.
that's,
Todd Taylor.
yeah, that's,
But to answer your question, Jack, I still think we have a very diverse housing stock. We've got homes that, are from if you go from east to west, we've got very affordable starter homes that are single story. We've got, throughout the township, middle range homes, and then we've got higher up ones as well. We've got homes that are probably over $2 million, and we've got homes that you can probably buy for 175,
so,
something
so
like
if the
that.
average is 320,000, 160 square feet, that would, or 160 per foot, that would mean the average house is 2,000 square feet. But to your point, the $1 million plus are pulling up the average. I wonder, you don't happen to know what the median is, do you?
no, and I meant to look that up. I know the median household income, but I didn't get the,
What is the median household income?
it's 79.8, which is 15 more than the state of Michigan. But I do think it's interesting that when you look at the size of homes and the number of bedrooms, only 8% of homes in Plymouth Township have one bedroom, and then only another 18 have two bedroom. So there's definitely homes that are meant for larger families and not necessarily young professionals or couples or individuals who are looking to downsize and kind of age in place that may want just a 1 or 2 bedroom.
Well, the census data, I think, says that 25% of the housing units in Plymouth Township are occupied by one person. Or 25% of the population is living alone, something like that. So that implies a lot of excess floor space.
Yeah, that people are living alone in big homes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another component to quality of life is education, and this is something I think that Trustee Heitman, you've done a lot with the SME Prime, and also with partnerships with Schoolcraft and looking for talent and that workforce connection, the next step. Is there anything you want to add to?
And one of the things we're going to talk about in a minute is unemployment is tremendous all over the place, right?
Unemployment is tremendous?
Yeah, the
Employment is tremendous.
are very good because they're very low, right? So there are a lot of jobs, and we'll talk about it more in a minute, but these are the kinds of things that just say, all right, help me fill these jobs. I had a company yesterday just said, we're going to move to Texas because we can't find enough good people here. I'm working with the high school and working with Schoolcraft College to do feeders into the job openings I know we have. Right now we have almost 2,000 job openings in Plymouth Township alone, 2,000.
And these are highly skilled jobs. These are manufacturing.
Everything from manufacturing.
But it's computer science. We've got Rivian right now. I was told that they are trying to place something on the order of magnitude of 100 interns this summer, and they're working with Plymouth Canton to basically take these kids out of high school, and they can get a degree, and while they're working then for Rivian for $100,000 a year. It's crazy.
A former clerk's son is.
Yeah, I mean it's really impressive. So it's SME Prime is an example of the Society of Manufacturing Engineers is partnering with Plymouth Canton Schools and a variety of local businesses who do a lot of machinery, manufacturing, CNC, engineering, tool and die sort of stuff, and we're trying desperately to get kids into these trades because their skills are badly needed right now. These are the jobs that are going unfilled, and companies do want to stay in the area, and they're working very closely with Plymouth Canton, with Schoolcraft College, with local governments. We're we're doing our best to try to match these employers with students who would be interested in that line of work. And Gary's been very active in that. Do you have anything else you want to add? That's kind of the oversight, but.
Yeah, computer numerically controlled operators, CNC operators, 1,000 openings in Plymouth Township today, 1,000 openings.
So
You want to talk about Securus? Securus
has tons of openings if you have computer skills. And guess what? You don't need a college degree. They're hiring kids in fact, they just hired a high school graduate. He started with the company because he was very, very computer literate. He liked getting into computer security. They gave him a job right out of high school, and he's making as much as college grad sitting next to him. It's very, very important.
We have, what's the Chinese base, the Chinese company? They have an unusual name, and they do the...
Shagan?
No, they do...
Not Huawei.
No.
The Bearing Company?
No, this is all, it's all very high-tech. Come on, the who?
Baidu.
No. Now, Gary, you worked with them on something. So anyway, they are a company that improves processes for the automotive industry, for production and assembly and things like that. They have to hire 10 people next year. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I think their starting salaries are going to be like $125, and they're looking for people, out of high school if they're up to it. So it's really it's an incredible job market right now, and we're doing what we can. We don't want to get into the job placement business as a township. That is not a core function of township government, but we're certainly, when we're out and about, when Gary's out and about, when we're meeting with new developers who want to do business here, they want to know what the job market is like. They want to know what the educational base is like around here. I got to tell you, I mean, the Plymouth Canton schools are one of the best school districts in the state. It's one of the big reasons why people come to this community. And if you apply yourself and you do well in Plymouth Canton, you can get into the STEM program. You can get into all of the other, career development type programs that they offer, and you will have a job waiting for you probably before you graduate. So it's a great time to be a kid in high school if you've got that kind of inclination. So don't become lawyers, okay? That's my advice.
You'll end up here if you're a lawyer.
Don't be a lawyer.
You don't want to come up
Mamas,
here.
don't let your boys become lawyers.
Need to kill
There's no
them
money in it.
all.
There's no money in it. So, okay, Laura, continue.
Okay, another component to quality of life, and one that we kind of maybe don't necessarily think about when we talk about economic development, but it is part of that, is the recreation and the green space and the wellness of the community. This is just an image of the pavilion that's generously being donated by Mr. Doyle for the Miller Park.
But there's not going to be a parking.
Yeah, that's not real.
No, this is the
Manufacturers.
yes, that they use. So no, there won't be parking just adjacent to it. It will be a nice green space.
Parking but no road.
But then also, in addition to recreation, just access in general to green spaces and having that connectivity, that safety for pedestrians. And I think that the board has been really great about sidewalks and making sidewalks a priority. And even the DDA plan showing that that's going to be something that we want to work on in the future. Another aspect is just sort of the additional benefits and amenities that the township affords. So in the past 5 months, the township has created and adopted a historic district ordinance, which then led to the formation of the Historic District Commission. And really hoping that the commission will raise awareness and eventually may be able to offer through the state and federal government some financial incentives. This is a Frank Lloyd Wright house that's in the township on Beck Road. I think it's called the Carlton Wall House. And interestingly enough, Frank Lloyd Wright, they honored his work this week by the UNESCO approved 8 of his buildings as World Heritage, or on the World Heritage list. So this now puts them in the same caliber as the Great Wall of China or a Taj Mahal. Yep. It has universal value.
So if you have one, now you can't sell it because it's a UNESCO site?
Just those 8 were designated, but I think it's pretty fantastic that we have this in our community, and there's other special historic pieces scattered throughout the township as well, even if we don't have a historic district in the traditional sense of a downtown street. So the Historic District Commission is a diverse board, and I'm looking forward to what they bring to the township as they continue as they are formed and have their first kickoff meeting this year. Trustee Dempsey, you were really instrumental in creating that ordinance. Is there anything you want to add?
Thank you, no.
Okay. And then another asset that the township offers is that we do have an established brownfield redevelopment authority to help with environmental remediation, and there's also an established DDA in place, and with the DDA's current plan and kind of ticking off some of these projects and being proactive, hopefully that helps economic development in the township as well. We've already talked about the CX Railroad Viaduct project. This was one of the renders from that 2008 Hubble, Roth, and Clark study that we have to kind of work with and use as a foundation. And then the township is also making improvements to infrastructure. So this is the Special Assessment District on General Drive, for instance. Trustee Heitman had met with the business community along that area and was really hearing that this was a priority, that it was terrible for their in and out traffic and important to them, and Signet has really spearheaded.
So Gary, the Signet is this, if you look up here, that's Signet, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's Signet. And the AbsoPure facilities are pretty much
All the way down.
these 3.
Yeah,
That's 3 brothers.
3 brothers on the corner.
Okay.
So just in closing with the quality of life is we're here to keep working towards improving quality of life and maintaining that standard that the residents and the business community enjoy and have come to expect.
And this is just not a graphic. This was actually the billboard that we utilized last year through our longstanding legal agreements with the billboard companies on 275 and M14. This was
free.
For free.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many more do we have left, sessions?
We can use them every year, but they have to be pre-approved, and they can run typically about a week.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Trustee Heitman to talk a little bit about some challenges that we're facing, and then also his experience in the field doing proactive economic outreach.
Okay, we're almost done, guys. Challenges. Okay, I-275 and Ann Arbor Road, we've already talked about. Major challenge being taken care of with the Kmart site. We still got Steak and Ale as an eyesore on the corner. Durr, we have a little bit something maybe coming on Durr.
What's Durr?
Durr is the 190 right there, 190,000.
It's a German company that moved to Novi, right?
Right.
That makes painting systems for
Where's that
body
at again?
kitchens.
Right on Plymouth Road, right across from
Blackwell Ford.
Oh, yeah.
So it's got about 60,000 square foot of office space and over about 150,000 of warehouse. This is the place we were approached by the largest marijuana manufacturer that wanted to move in, and we said, sorry, it's not going to work.
How come Webasto didn't consider that site?
They wanted brand new. They wanted brand new, and their site in Mexico, Webasto's site in Mexico, was put up the same way this one is. It went up very, very quickly. So property behind the Elks and the whole railroad property, we know that's an issue and something we have to address.
Well, who north of the Elks, right over here, who owns that? What is that site? It's next to the railroad track?
It was approved as a development for senior housing at least once.
Yeah,
Then the
twice.
recession came,
Twice, yeah, twice, yeah.
so now it's owned by some developer, right?
Yeah, they were going to do, the first one was detached condos, I mean, right next to railroad tracks. Then they figured senior housing, I mean, can't hear anyway.
What'd you say?
15 acres.
Can't believe I just said that.
We have had, let me just come back to that real quick. That property north of the Elks Lodge was that metal plant, Chuck, and the metal plant
Company, yeah.
right by the north of the Elks Lodge. You've
It
told
used to
us.
be a pickling and steel processing.
There you go. So that,
Pilgrim Steel.
yeah, so that is definitely a brownfield site, and that's been one of the drawbacks to it. But we have had some inquiries recently, again, people looking for either hospice care or Alzheimer's care or basically facilities that would not be.
Assisted living.
Yeah, but that would not be impacted by the railroads.
Well, the railroad, that's not really a good excuse. Look at the development at the Bathy site on Mill Street in the city of Plymouth, right up against the railroad. And those are going to be relatively expensive, attracting high-end, well-educated people. So the railroad should not be a burden.
It is amazing, though. When I was a state representative, we used to get complaints all the time from people in the city who complained about the railroad noise, and they lived in those new condos right there at the Daisy plant, and we were like, well, those railroads have been there for 150 years, you know. So
15-acre south of Locke, I had a meeting with Locke yesterday. They're going to put a test track in there. They've had a lot of people inquire about owning that facility, renting it, leasing it, anything they could possibly. Locke still owns it. They are in the tank business. They are very, very lucrative and profitable, and they're going to put a test track in there. That's pretty much what their goal is.
well, yeah, they're thinking about it.
They haven't talked to us, but that was their goal.
I mean, so I don't want people to get too excited about a tank. A tank test track is not exactly what we thought about in that corner.
That's an old parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But we got to find out exactly what they're talking about, because if they really want to do something aggressive, we might want to relocate that to MITC area.
One thing we did have left over from last time was the bowling alley.
Yeah.
The bowling alley has a new owner.
So it's still operating.
It's open, right?
It looks like.
And guess what? The new owner is a bowling alley. So it's a very, very successful bowling alley from Warren. The owners have looked at the site. They're going to improve the facade. They're going to come back and, they understand being good corporate citizens.
Well, it looks pretty sad today. I drove by there, and it looks vacant. And I think what the business model that they're looking at is going to be something along the lines of the Punch Bowl in downtown Detroit, or maybe more of a family, I don't know, more of a gaming experience along with bowling and,
Entertainment
destination. Kind of like a Dave & Buster's maybe type of format, or Punch Bowl sort of thing, where people would want to go to hang out and bowl rather than just go there for bowling.
Whatever happened to the food cart development?
I didn't even talk about that. That's Plymouth Parks and Eats, and if you go by the corner of Schoolcraft and Eccles on the southwest corner, right next to the DTE station, they are improving the site, and they want to be open either later this month or August. And they're currently working out a sign that says "Welcome to the Plymouth community" as well for that corner, which would be very nice.
So that's that real small, next to the Consumers Power.
Yes.
It'd be a food truck
compressor
court.
station.
It's a very small parcel.
I wondered what it's a semicircle driveway.
Yeah.
That's it.
They're going to have like 6 food trucks.
The food truck court.
Rotate.
So did we have to have a special ordinance? We never had an ordinance for food trucks.
We didn't, but the Planning Commission reviewed it under special land use, and they held a public hearing, and then they reviewed the site plan.
Yeah. So they're going to do like, the idea, the idea is most people will grab and go. go back to their office. There's a little bit of on-site, right?
Yeah, couple tables.
Couple tables, and then they'll rotate food trucks. So you're constantly having a change. So when you go out for lunch, grab from whatever food truck and.
Well, there's
go back to
thousands
work.
of employees within 5 minutes of that.
Well,
location.
Amazon's right around the
It's
corner.
all for Amazon.
You know.
Okay, the biggest question I get is, why the heck are we doing this? You're knocking down trees and putting up companies and getting new jobs. Well, what does 100 new manufacturing jobs mean? It means a lot more than 100 new manufacturing jobs. It means also 64 new non-manufacturing jobs. And there's the breakdown of what that is. New retail establishments. We'd still like a couple more restaurants in town, that's for sure. Population increase of over 200, 61 new school enrollments, and over 1.5 million in retail sales, durable and non-durable. One job created actually means 3.2 new jobs in this area. This is huge. Again, this is, what does one job mean to me? You know, why are we displacing all these animals for one job? This is why we're displacing animals for one job, because it's 3.27 additional jobs. And these are the kinds of numbers that bring taxable income in, property taxes in. Okay, yes, we will give a tax abatement if the time is right, but it's better than having an open field where we're not getting any taxes. These are the kinds of things. One key piece there, retention is important. I've made over 50 retention visits in the last year. These are companies that nobody ever talked to. Right now, it was about less than 10% that said anybody from the township ever came and talked to them. I go in with Wayne County and the state of Michigan, and we say, all right, how can we help you? We're not charging you anything. We're not doing anything. And these guys are, most of them have said, I'm going to add new jobs just because somebody came and talked to me. Yeah, I feel valued. I feel wanted. They're adding new jobs. Master Automatic is a great example right next to Webasto. They've been there a long time. Tremendous corporate citizen. Oh, well, Webasto's adding. We'll add new jobs too. We're going to add to the back of the building 25, 30, 50 new jobs. That's a key piece. And I'll tell you one more in the trustee comments. So that's it.
Okay.
I'm
Good
from
job.
the
What's
I'm from
coming
the
next?
government. I'm here to help you.
I think we heard a little bit tonight about the new development along the DDA's corridor for the Henry Ford Health Systems, which will be a major impact to the area, and then also along the MITC corridor. As those lots are developed, there'll be a lot of change in that area.
And the former prison site itself is being developed by Redico. And Redico has submitted their brownfield plan to the state of Michigan. We really need to work with the state now to remind the new administration of the goals and objectives of the MITC and make sure that they provide Redico with the financial assistance that they need. Redico has already invested more than $5 million of their own money in environmental work already on site, but we've got to get significant development now above ground, because that is the stuff that's taxable through the tax increment financing of the Brownfield Authority. And the goal again of the MITC is that we need about $30 million over the next 30 years to clean up the sites and to make the necessary infrastructure improvements to 5 Mile and Ridge and Beck, so that we can make that an economically viable area. We also are always in communication with the city of Detroit, because Detroit also still owns the large parcel to the west of our parcel that we are handing over to Hillside. But Detroit owns the similar, kind of the mirror image parcel to the west. That is still very undeveloped. There's very few utilities that go there. But every once in a while, we get a nibble from a really big company, typically from overseas, that is looking to make a statement. And we always offer up that site to them as a, yeah, well, I haven't breached anything. But you know what? And like Gary pointed out before, we don't want to poach business from other communities, and if we don't have something available, we're gonna look to either the city or to Northville or Livonia or maybe even Canton to see if there's something that would fit their purposes.
Laura, you didn't mention anything about the former bowling alley that's now the ice rink. They rebuilt it. How did that work out? It's one of the few recreation facilities we have in the township.
The Arctic Pond Ice Arena? Oh, yeah, that was a significant investment, and I think one of the first projects I worked on when I came in. And I haven't been inside the facility since they made the improvements, but from what I saw in the drawings, I mean,
yeah, that was last year, but yeah.
Beautiful, yeah.
So there was one more slide up there, just for questions or comments. I know that the supervisor's office is happy to receive the feedback if there's any here or at home. Your email is kheisey@plymouth.twp.org. We have that up there, so thank you.
And again, we meet with people all the time, whether it's me or Gary or Laura or a combination. I also want to thank Gary Heitman again for his incredible work in the economic development field. For the meager salary of a Plymouth Township trustee, he certainly earns his stay here and has been a really great ambassador for the community. He knows the business. He comes from a lifetime of experience in the industry, so he knows how to speak the language, and he is doing a tremendous job for us in this field, and he is delivering jobs and economic development and investment to the community single-handedly. So we want to thank you again, Gary, for all your hard work.
Appreciate it.
Well said.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
Well, just a comment. It's a really exciting presentation. I commend Trustee Heitman and also the supervisor and also our planner, because I think with the Planning Commission and its expertise and this planning expertise that we have with Ms. Haw, and I think there's been a significant uptick, in my view, in the kinds of developments and the kinds of projects that have been worked on here. So it makes me feel good that I'm a silent partner in this team, that all of you are working this very diligently.
Build relationships both with, like, Laura and McKenna, and, we're trying to build. People are calling us all the time. What do you got that's 25,000 square feet? What do you got that's 50? What are you guys doing on 5 Mile? These are companies from all over the world that are calling.
They don't call real estate operations, they call the township?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's somewhat backwards. You don't call the township for land, or if you're going to buy something.
I called all those realtors and said, if there's anything coming up that the township can help you with, you need me to go and say, hey, we're open for business, I will. So that made it a lot easier, because some of these guys, they were a little sleazy. I don't want to say sleazy, but they kind of went around things, and now they're happy to come to us with questions and ideas, and that's what we want.
Well, there's two really big factors. Plymouth's location is number one, and when the auto industry is growing, we grow.
Well,
most of these developments are automotive related.
And we have Jack.
Yeah. When Rivian went in, everybody jumped on board and said, we want to be part of it. Webasto and Rivian, they're going to be partners on some roofing. This is a big thing, and that Haggerty corridor is going to be amazing by the time we get done.
Just to dovetail on what Trustee Kermey said, we all got, I assume, this publication from the Greater Metropolitan Association of Realtors.
Yeah. Came in the
mail. Yeah. I found it interesting. I usually don't pay much attention necessarily to these kinds of things, although I'm sure the clerk would say I should be very deferential to realtors and people that sell real estate, right? Yeah, absolutely, they're experts. But anyway, in this publication, there were some interesting things like walkability adds value, and parking requirements harm the value of land. In other words, the old approach of having a parking space for every employee and potential guests or something doesn't increase value, it harms it. So I found this publication very interesting, and I just, assuming you get this kind of thing and you're up to speed on this, Laura, but it seems to me these track a lot of what the Planning Commission and this township government's been looking to lately. Not old-style development, but forward-thinking, more up-to-date kinds of things like walkability.
Yep, and being proactive.
And isn't it great that Plymouth Township really never built a lot of retail big box? We always held that back over the years, and it's turned out to be a fortuitous decision.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board or the public? Mary Ann?
This is a big lobbying effort that they're doing. They're spending a ton of money.
Mary Ann McLaren, 4441's Mark Trail. Great presentation. Is it going to be available online?
We can make it available online, probably, because it's not in the agenda pack, this
Right.
presentation.
Yeah.
What we can do, though, obviously it's all electronic, and we can put it on through, maybe on current news on the website, like a news article, or we can put it into community development.
Okay. Yeah, because it needs to be shared with other neighbors, residents.
Right.
An explanation in that.
Yeah.
And I have to say this, along with all the economic development, I hope you're protecting the environment. Okay, good job.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to respond to the scurrilous rumor that we're doing away with wildlife. In my own backyard, I have turkeys, I have deer, I have rabbits. I have more wildlife this year than ever before. So maybe they're running from the Bopasco site over to my house.
Not to mention all the wild parties.
I wish you wouldn't bring that up in a public meeting like this, especially since we're trying to get out of here.
Yes.
Well, I'd say we have more wildlife in Plymouth Township than we had 50 years ago. 50 years ago, you didn't see a deer or a turkey.
So speaking of that, so the Planning Commission, speaking of that, Planning Commission has forwarded a request for a woodlands ordinance. Has that been?
What do you mean, a tree ordinance? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
We've looked at it. We'll get back with them at some point. We got to look at it very carefully from the standpoint of economic development, as a hindrance, as a deterrent, and also we have to look at it in light of what Canton has been going through lately with their tree ordinance.
It needs to be rational. There has to be a balance, but
well,
you know,
and we know how it got. We know how it got started, and that was because of the experience on Beck Road, which they've been suitably, fined and punished for that.
I don't think they
but
have.
I don't want to use a bad apple scenario to impose a restriction that's going to chase development away or make it unreasonable.
Yeah.
And in the case of Canton, they picked the fight with the wrong guy, and they're in federal court now, it's costing them a ton of money in legal fees, and it's also damaging their reputation, because I've heard about it. I mean, people will say, I don't want to do business in Canton because, we have to deal with over-regulation, so we have to be cautious of that.
Well, I would like the discussion to come before the board.
Yeah, let's talk about it, but isn't it somewhat of a moot point? We have almost no undeveloped land that remains.
There's still some parcels, and I mean, I think you can do it in a rational way. I don't think that the penalty that individual got would have dissuaded them at all. It was nothing, and I mean, they clear cut the thing and they destroyed it, and they just thumbed their nose right at the township. Gave us.
It was a very unfortunate situation.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Well, we're kind of bleeding into supervisor and trustee comments, so I'm going to move on to item G, supervisor and trustee comments. We are going to meet again on July 23rd. We still do not plan on meeting in study session on August 6th, we will not have a meeting on August 13th. Otherwise, wow, we've had a lot to discuss here tonight. I don't see how I can add to it. It's been a good night. Bob?
No, I thought we were on trustee comments. That was my request.
Okay. Gary?
Well, I'm going to add to it.
Uh-oh.
I had a great retention visit yesterday with Locke. Those of you who know, Locke is Haggerty and Plymouth Road.
I thought it was Loke.
No, Locke.
Oh, it is Locke?
Right now, they are forecasting 700 new jobs over the next 5 years. Today, they have 100 open machinist jobs, CNC jobs. Now, for those of you that don't know what a CNC job is, okay, numerically controlled, so they get somebody to run a robot, basically, to do drilling or cutting or shaping or lathing or grinding, those kinds of things. So you program it, you operate it. How much money could I make doing this? This is from Locke, okay? They have 2 apprentice programs. They're taking college kids, they're taking high school kids. You can make $100,000 after your first 4 years there. Your first 4 years, you will make a total of $250,000. Locke has said, send anybody over. We'd be happy to look at them. They have 8, 10, and 12-hour shifts. They have free food, and they have air conditioning. Okay? And they give quarterly bonuses. They can't get people. The economy is so good, they cannot get people. And this is a problem that not only Locke has. Locke has joined a consortium of about 11 other companies here in Plymouth Township that all have the same needs for CNC operators, robot operators, these kinds of positions. So they're all working with us in Schoolcraft College and the high schools now to try to figure out how can we get these people. So just so you know, and it goes back, all the parents that say kids go to school and you can get $60,000 a year after 5 or 6 years after you pay off your student loans. Well, you got 2 apprentice programs. They're willing to work with you, and you're going to make $100,000. So
Yeah, but we don't want to discourage people from going to college. That's not what we're doing here.
Well, but see, that's part of the problem. We encourage people to go. Locke said they went to the high school and said, okay, how many kids are going to college? 100% raise their hand. How many want to work and do numeric computing? Nobody raised their hand. When he said, if I told you make $100,000, would you do it? Oh, yeah, we'd do it. So just for those that maybe college isn't for, right, or you want to make money before college, please look into it. It'll help the whole township.
Yep, absolutely. Jerry Vorma.
Everything's fine in the clerk's department.
Okay. Mark?
Just 2 things. Number one, I wanted to echo what Jack had said. I was aware of all of these economic development projects, but you put them all in one slide deck and over the period of the last 12 months, and it's a little overwhelming how much progress you all have made in doing this. It's really impressive. Combine that with the presentation that we had last meeting with the building department and all the improvements that they've made, it facilitates this process and makes it easier to do business in Township. So I think those 2 really go hand in hand. My second comment is I wanted to thank all of the retired firefighters for being here tonight, not only for your prayer service, but for the time that you spent with me and going through your concerns about the health care benefits. And you've given me some things to think about, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Hey, Jack.
We just went through the 4th of July holiday. Did we have reports on how the ordinance, the new ordinance worked compared to the old?
Yeah.
Fireworks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Fireworks
believe
complaint?
John Brothers, Lieutenant, has some stats on that. You don't have to have total recall on it, but definitely we had fewer reports.
Yeah, so I ran the stats for the last 14 days. We had 8 calls for service for fireworks, most of them after midnight. I believe 6 of them were on 4th of July night. And I compared that to last year, we had 24 for the same 14-day period, so it's definitely gone down.
Obviously, state law and the ordinance has been a benefit.
We hope, we certainly hope so, that was a factor. Chuck?
All right, I have a couple of things. Since we're on the police, the ex-convict living in Trailwood where people are complaining, what became of that? Anything? They sent an email, said they were afraid.
That's being handled by Chief Tidrington. I know he has talked to the person, and they're working on a variety of countermeasures.
All right. The Peter Rockwell statues that we put in storage at one time, do we know where they are, or are they all deployed?
They're in the ones that are no longer functional or broken are in the DPW cold storage building.
So, okay, if we do any improvements in the park or whatever, we may want to think about incorporating those things.
Yes and no. I mean, they were very they were damaged by individuals. Not, I don't know if deliberately or not, but the biggest problem that we had with them was their mounting system in the ground. They were on poles and pedestals, which eventually they came unhinged and they came off. And then these poles and pedestals became a serious safety hazard, so they had to be removed. The majority of the statues are still in place and are still being used. The ones that broke off, though, or have been heavily damaged are in storage.
Okay, at least we know where they are.
Yeah.
Sprayscape water use and function, is it, remember, that costs us $40,000 a year. Is it working right?
It's working perfectly. We've made over $13,000 of improvements to the computer system and the mechanical systems, which had been neglected for years. And it's working as
Okay, somebody's got
advertised.
their eye on it then.
Oh, our park staff is on it every day, and we of course have made the necessary investments in refurbishing the equipment and the software.
All right. At one time you said you were considering tearing down the wood play structure. I'd like to be part of the long discussion about that because there's a lot of people that have an attachment to that structure.
Yeah.
And maybe some refurbishment, or we would organize a volunteer group which built it, another group to maybe we would recode it with.
Why would we tear it down?
Well, that's
My
what
kids used to play on it all the time.
Kurt brought that up at
Well,
one time.
I've not brought that up publicly, Chuck, but the wooden structure is approaching 25 years of age. It does not comply with any modern recreation safety standards. The groundskeepers and the park staff have indicated that there have been bees, wasps, that there has been damage, that there has been vandalism, that there have been animals living in the infrastructure of the play structure. Those things don't last forever, and I think as part of a long-range recreation plan for the township, that is something that's going to have to be looked at some point.
Well, I'd be part of, if you want, we can organize something like animals, we could trap them and, that kind of thing. We could do stuff.
Release them in Jack's yard.
Release them in Jack's yard. I'd like more. All right.
Okay. Very good. We're going to move on to public comments and questions, limited to 3 minutes on anything. Okay, then, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Heitman.
I move we adjourn at 9:18.
Motion's made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorva. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.